the iPhone XS Max. So this has been my daily driver, my daily iOS driver for more than a month now, and not only that, but I've done multiple videos on the channel on the XS Max already, including speed tests, battery drain tests, camera comparisons, my initial 4-day review, and more. And here's my full experience and my full in-depth review after 30 days of use. Now, I've already done my full in-depth review of the iPhone XS in gold, the smaller variant of the two, so do check that video out in case you missed it, but in this one, it's all about the Max. So get those snacks ready, get some drinks, because this is going to be one long but very detailed and interesting video. Hopefully, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Okay, so in terms of the design, the iPhone XS Max is essentially a larger version of the iPhone XS. This is also the first large form factor iPhone X, the first Plus version of the iPhone X, the only difference being that it's called the Max instead of being called the Plus. Now, Apple did say that the reason for this is the fact that the Max is larger than the Plus in terms of the display size, which is true, but probably the main reason behind this is that now we finally get the exact same specs and features on both. So yeah, no more compromises with the smaller model, which means that you're not forced to get the larger model for the features anymore, as the only differences between the two are the display size, the battery size. The iPhone XS Max comes with a larger battery because it's also, a larger device. And then we also get a Plus interface, which I'll be covering in just a second. But yeah, other than that, this is the exact same package that the iPhone XS provides, which is pretty great. Even better for the iPhone XS, the smaller variant. So yeah, the XS Max is now the replacement for the iPhone 8 Plus from last year, just with an iPhone X style design. Oh, also fun fact, the XS Max is shorter than the 8 Plus. It's not as wide as the 8 Plus, but it is thicker by 0.2 millimeters, so not a big difference. It is a bit easier to hold and use than the iPhone 8 Plus, but not by a lot. So if you're coming from the 6 Plus, the 7 Plus, or the 8 Plus, this is going to feel very familiar and similar. Of course, that with the removal of the top and bottom bezels, we get a much larger 6.5-inch versus 5.5-inch display, which I'll be covering in the display section of this video. And the XS Max, same as the Plus models, is definitely not a one-handed phone, so you can try and balance this from one finger to another, but you cannot use it with one hand, as you can, for example, with the iPhone XS or the iPhone X. Now, Apple did claim that the glass on the iPhone XS Max is the most durable one on any smartphone, but I mean, I've seen multiple drop tests, and spoiler, it does break. So yeah, to use a case on your iPhone, some of my favorite cases are actually from a company called Mouse. In case you don't know about Mouse, they're one of the only brands that focus on both protection as well as design. So in terms of protection, Mouse cases are lined with AeroShock, a high impact material on the inside of the case, which dampens the impact of drops, while allowing the Limitless 2.0 iPhone cases to be extremely protective and shockproof. Now, normally cases like this have a big trade-off in terms of their design, but the Mouse managed to integrate the backplate with magnets in their new Limitless 2.0 series. So essentially with this, you can add add-ons to the cases. This is quite cool. You can add a card wallet, a wall mount, and many more, and these would automatically align thanks to these magnets inside a case. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And they have many designs that you can pick from, all of them made from real materials. So for example, the one that I personally use is the bamboo one. Just love how this one looks and feels. But you also have a walnut option, which looks even classier, or you could go for the carbon fiber variant, or even genuine leather if you prefer that one or more. And it's quite interesting to see how Mouse grew as a company. So they actually started off in Shenzhen, where they developed the AeroShock technology, after which they returned to the UK to create viral marketing campaigns, where, for example, they threw cases from cranes, windows, iconic London bridges, and even around Apple stores in front of many fans that were eagerly waiting for their next iPhone. And they managed to raise $2.4 million on Indiegogo in funding, making Mouse the most successful mobile accessories campaign ever. And realistically, those mouse cases, they feel like a tank on your phone, so you feel assured that your phone is protected against the heaviest drops, and they also look really, really good. Plus, Mouse also provides a free screen protector with every new purchase. So yeah, simply use the coupon code ZONEofTECH or the link in the description for a 20% discount on everything on Mouse's website. Also, I'll be doing a giveaway of 7 mouse cases. It's just the case, by the way, but I have some iPhone XS Max cases, some iPhone X cases. Just make sure you're following me on Instagram at ZONEofTECH, and leave a comment on the last image that I posted, the one with all the mouse cases in it, and let me know which one would you want and for what device, iPhone XS Max or iPhone X, and thanks to Mouse for sponsoring this video. So that was the design. Let's talk about the display. So compared to last year, the XS and the XS Max, they have an increased IMX dynamic range, and I can definitely say that the colors do look a bit more vibrant than on the 10, and the display itself is brighter and easier to see outdoors. But other than that, the biggest difference here is in terms of the size. So now we have a 6.5-inch display up from the 5.8-inch on the iPhone 10 or the 5.5-inch on the iPhone on the Plus series of the iPhones. And then it's also a higher resolution display this time at 2688 by 1242 pixels or 558 ppi. Fun fact, guys, this is the same PPI as on the iPhone XS and the iPhone 10, so the Max wouldn't look any sharper than those, even though it has a higher resolution, but the display is also larger, but the PPI remains the same. And I have to say, I absolutely love this display size. You can see so much more than on the iPhone 10, and this results in an amazingly immersive viewing experience. I just cannot go back to the iPhone 10 after using this, and even when I got the iPhone 10 from last year, I was hoping that Apple would introduce a Plus model of the iPhone 10 soon, which they actually did this year. Now, remember that Plus interface that I mentioned at the beginning of this video? So with the iPhone XS Max, we get this Plus interface from the old Plus models of the iPhones. So essentially now, when you rotate your iPhone in landscape, some of the apps, such as the calendar, the notes, settings, and more, those would rotate as well in landscape, and we get an extra menu on the left-hand side, which is very useful, especially in Mail. Now, this interface looks similar to the one on an iPad, for example, with extra menus on the left. The only difference between this and the interface on the Plus models of the iPhones is that a home screen no longer rotates, which honestly I was never a fan of, but this was probably removed because the notch would have blocked some of the home screen icons. So yeah, overall, great display, love the size, love the extra screen real estate that we get with the Max. So this is by far the best iPhone for consuming content. Also, making content if you care about that, which I'll be covering in a second, and it could even replace the iPad mini for some users, which in my case, it definitely has, by the way. Okay, so what about a camera? Well, the good news is that we have the exact same camera as on the regular iPhone XS. So we get the same smart HDR processing with the Apple A12 processor, where the iPhone actually does 1 trillion calculations in the background for every single photo that it takes before the photo is even taken, which is really impressive. And then this is actually a bigger camera improvement than the 10 was from the iPhone 7 Plus. So this is quite huge. So all the HDR shots would look even better than before, much more vibrant and sharper. The iPhone XS also handles shadows and very bright images and areas significantly better than the iPhone 10 does. And then low light has also been improved considerably from the 10, and now the front-facing camera can do 1080p 60 frames per second from 1080p 30. The iPhone XS now knows what's in the shot before it's even taken, and then processes that image according to what it sees in the background. Now, the only thing that you might dislike about this camera is that now it processes everything a bit too much, sometimes way too much. So panoramas and every shot actually would look even sharper than taken on a Samsung phone. So yeah, that's something that I've always hated about Samsung phones, how sharp, how overly processed everything was. And this thing processes even more than Samsung phones do, which is a bit ironic. Now, this is something that Apple is currently working on and tweaking this, so hopefully they dial back on the sharpness a bit with a future update. Now, another big difference in terms of the camera is when it comes to the portrait mode, the portrait light processing. So now you can actually see these processed in real time, which is thanks to the Apple A12 processor. And this is great because now you can align a shot and the scene before a shot has even been taken. Now, if you want to know more about a camera on the iPhone XS and basically everything you need to know about this, I've done multiple ultimate camera comparisons, 20-minute each, and I've compared the iPhone XS Max to the Pixel 3, the Note 9, and even the iPhone 10 from last year, so do check those videos out for a proper in-depth camera comparison. But as a summary, the camera on this phone is pretty good, like really good. So what about the performance? Well, the Apple A12 processor is a beast. Fun fact, single core-wise, it's more powerful than a top-of-the-line 3.1 GHz quad-core i7 15-inch MacBook Pro 2017, which comes with the most powerful laptop processor from Intel for the 7th generation. So yeah, this thing is crazy powerful. The only question is that power fully used? And the answer is no. So the XS Max still cannot do split-screen multitasking, which I find to be a major inconvenience, especially on a device with such a large display as the XS Max. I mean, the Note 9, for example, comes with a smaller 6.4-inch display, and this also applies, by the way, to every single Android phone, coming with, I believe, Android O and later. You get to use 2 apps at the same time, which some of you might say, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you'll never use it. But actually, there's gonna be that one-time scenario when you're traveling, you don't have your computer near you, and you get an important email, and you need to do a bit of research on that, on the subject, and you want to open up the email as well as the web browser at the same time. Or let's say you're watching an educational YouTube video, and you want to take some notes on that. Well, you cannot do any of these with the iPhone XS Max. And yeah, I know you can edit videos in iMovie or create music in GarageBand, and for anyone who does that, this exports faster than the iPhone X did, and you also get a larger display, so it's pretty good for that. But other than that, have there been any speed differences that I've noticed? Well, Face ID is faster a tiny bit. Siri responds pretty much instantly to HomeKit commands. That's pretty cool. And then RAM management has been improved actually by a lot. So now we get 40 GB of RAM versus 3 GB on the iPhone X from last year. So more apps would stay open in the background, and the whole using this phone experience would feel smoother, more responsive, and overall snappier. I wouldn't really say that it's a massive difference. Probably about a 10 to 15% improvement, I would say. Okay, so do we get any new, unique, special features with the iPhone XS Max? Well, aside from pretty much everything that I mentioned, the larger display and the Plus interface, something that left me quite surprised were the speakers. So wow, the speakers on the XS Max especially are significantly richer and also louder than on the iPhone X. Actually, I'll let you guys judge this for yourselves. So here's what you can expect from that, and if they don't have an October event, then here's at least what you can expect from all these products. So yeah, get some snacks ready, and here's everything you need to know about all of these and a possible October Apple event. So the biggest star of the event would actually be the new iPad Pro 3rd generation. And then, you get all the new features that we get with the iPhone XS, such as faster wireless charging with a copper coil, wireless charging coil. We get improved water resistance, IP68 this time, up to 2 meters of depth, up to 30 minutes from 1 meter. We get faster LTE speeds of up to 1 gigabit per second. But actually, my favorite new feature is eSIM support, embedded SIM or electronic SIM support, which hasn't been enabled just yet, so that's probably coming most likely in iOS 12.1. So essentially, you would be able to register with a carrier without using an actual SIM. That's pretty cool. So essentially, you access this in the settings, just like you can currently do on the iPad Pros. The big upside to this is that you would be able to track your iPhone at all times, so thefts would be decreased heavily. Now, the downside is that it won't work in roaming, at least not for now. So in that case, you would still need a physical SIM, by the way. But yeah, other than that, the XS Max is just a larger version of the iPhone XS with a larger display, the Plus UI, and a larger battery. Speaking of the larger battery, it's a 3174 mAh battery, which is actually the largest one in any iPhone so far. Now, in terms of how long it lasts for, it's pretty good. So it's about 1 hour more in terms of the screen on time compared to the iPhone X from last year. Now, something that actually surprised me a lot was to see that in my battery drain test, the iPhone XS and the iPhone XS Max lasted for literally the exact same amount of time. There was only a few seconds difference between the XS and the XS Max. So yeah, the XS Max was not any better than the regular XS. It has a larger battery, that's true, but at the same time, it also has a larger display and a higher resolution display, which, consume more power. So yeah, in the end, the battery life's good, but on my usage, I'm a pretty heavy user, especially when I'm traveling. I cannot really get this through a full day of use. So in that case, when I'm traveling, I do carry around with me an external battery, and a pretty good one that I recommend is this 20,000 mAh Anker battery. Hashtag not sponsored, but it's just a battery that I really, really like and use myself every time I'm traveling. So link in the description in case you're interested in that. Okay, so as a conclusion, what are my final thoughts on the iPhone XS Max? Well, for me, it's the iPhone X I wish the iPhone X would have always been from the moment it launched. So I've always enjoyed the Plus form factor of my iPhone 7 Plus and also the 8 Plus. I've used the 8 Plus as my daily driver from September to November, shortest daily driver I've ever had. And I don't know, I would have wanted the plus-sized iPhone X since it came out, and we finally have that with the iPhone XS Max. But yeah, other than that, it doesn't really do anything more, which is a bit of a disappointment. We don't get split screen multitasking, which is a big downside for business users, especially having such a large display, and we also don't get any unique features for that larger display. We get a plus interface, which is okay, but it's not a key selling feature. We get nothing like the S Pen from Samsung, from the Samsung Galaxy Note line, which is actually a pretty big deal for business users because you can sign documents directly on your phone with that and also take handwritten notes. So yeah, that's a big deal. And then with the Apple A12 processor, it would have been great if Apple added a dock, just like the DeX dock on the Note series, where you put your phone in and it boots into another interface, and you can add a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse, and even more, essentially turning this power into a PC. Now, at some point in time, Apple would be doing just this. The Apple A12 processor is already more powerful than last year's top-of-the-line laptop processor from Intel, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, considering that macOS Mojave already supports some iOS apps, such as the Home app, the News app, and also voice memos, the next version of macOS is confirmed to have full support for iOS apps, followed by a MacBook around 2020 or 2021 that would run on Apple's designed processor. And when that happens, Apple could release such a dock for the iPhones, but yeah, until then, the iPhone XS Max is at the moment just a larger version of the iPhone XS. And if you're okay with that, you get a larger display, you get the same battery life and a plus-sized UI. But yeah, that's it. If you need something that does more, such as, split screen multitasking, signing documents, or even more than that, then this is not for you. But yeah, for me personally, I do like it. It's definitely my favorite iPhone that Apple has ever made by a long shot. So yeah, I do love it, but it's not really for everyone. It's also really expensive, so yeah, do keep that in mind. But yeah, thank you for watching. This was my full in-depth review of the iPhone XS Max. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely subscribe and notifications by tapping on that bell icon. If you're new to the channel and you want to see more in-depth tech videos like this one, leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. Let me know. It took a really long time to make, and every feedback is really appreciated. And yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about the iPhone XS Max? Do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's not? Do you think it's a huge improvement, not size-wise, from the iPhone X? And would you get one? But yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget about the giveaway I'm doing with mouse. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next video. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.